Tun Abdul Razak bin Hussein will undoubtedly be remembered as a prime minister who spared no effort for the sake of the well-being of his people. His idea in combating poverty, as well as his unique and practical approach in developing the country, will remain as an example to be followed by other countries. His leadership qualities in fulfilling the people's aspirations were clearly evident when he was appointed Minister of National and Rural Development on 6 October 1959. He observed that there was a very distinct gap in the incomes of the different races in Malaysia, especially between the Malays and the Chinese. According to him, the situation arose from the low education level of the rural populace, lack of administrative knowledge, differences in their way of thinking, lack of capital, and a traditional lifestyle marred by poverty. On May 6, 1960, as a first step, he outlined a development policy that would cover various projects in every district and state. This policy was known as the Red Book Policy, complete with an operations room as operations center for all its plans. Through this policy, he formed 3 planning centers covering districts, states, and federal areas. This plan managed to overcome the problem of red tape, which had delayed many projects. To encourage the people's participation in development, Tun Razak mooted the concept of Gerak Maju and Jaya Diri. Various development schemes such as building of new roads, construction of bridges, schools, playgrounds, and land development schemes were accomplished under this plan. In 1961, under the first Malaysian plan, 62 land development schemes were opened up, each with an area of about 4,000 acres. The cost was 2,150 million ringgit. In 1965, 12,000 families comprising 70,000 people were relocated to new areas with a total acreage of 145,000 acres. Towards 1965, Tun's efforts to uplift the well-being of rubber smallholders evidently bore fruit, as 750,000 acres of rubber land were replanted. At the same time, a better system of drainage and irrigation along with better quality seeds were able to increase rice output by farmers, especially in Kelantan and Kedah. Several other agencies were formed, such as the Muda Area Development Authority or MADA in Kedah in June 1970 and Kemubu Area Development Authority or KADA in March 1973 in Kota Baru. Between 1955 and 1967, more than 100,000 acres were planted with oil palm. This made Malaysia the world's premier palm oil producer. This position was further strengthened by the success of the Jangka Triangle project in Pahang, which provided land for 12,000 farmers. This success inspired him to launch the Southeast Johor and Southeast Pahang projects and open up new towns. In 1967, the Rice Cultivation Act was enacted. This act ensured that farmers would not be exploited by landowners. He also encouraged maximal use of land to bring greater economic gains. In 1965, the government established Bank Bumiputra to provide loans for business capital. This was soon followed by Bank Pertanian in 1969. To overcome the problem of marketing, the Federal Agricultural Marketing Authority or FAMA was established in 1963. Its responsibility was to buy and market agricultural produce. The National Rice Board, or LPN, was responsible for buying rice, whereas RISDA was responsible for research and buying rubber. MADI, set up in 1968, was trusted with the responsibility of agricultural research and development. As an extension of his ideas, Tun Razak launched the Green Book program on 20th December 1974 in the government's effort to control inflation. The Green Book Revolution was aimed at eradicating poverty and improving the lot of farmers by encouraging them to replace traditional farming techniques with modern practices. In cooperation with the Farmers Associations and also the Farmers Organization Board or Lembaga Pertubuhan Peladang, formed on 24th March 1972, farmers were able to improve their yields by using better quality seeds, pesticides and fertilizers, as well as build better irrigation systems. The government also encouraged the Bumiputras to enter the commercial and industrial sectors. MARA was formed in 1966 with the role of giving technical and financial assistance to Bumiputras who wish to start new projects. In 1971, shortly after becoming Prime Minister, he introduced the New Economic Policy or NEP as a follow-up of his unrelenting effort to improve the economic status of the people, especially those in the rural areas. The stated goals of this policy were to eradicate poverty regardless of racial background and to restructure society to the extent that ethnic background would no longer be identifiable with economic activity. It became evident that through this policy, the government was able to build a Malaysian society that was progressive in many economic sectors, and this, to a large extent, managed to raise the living standard of the Bumiputras and enable them to compete with other races. Besides helping the rural Malays with as much facilities as possible, business and industrial development was not neglected. MARA and Pernas were given the task of providing technical and financial help to produce Malay entrepreneurs. In this connection, in 1975, the Industrial Coordination Act was formulated to prevent exploitation of Malays in the manufacturing industry. In order to overcome the imbalance in economic returns between different regions in the country, Tun Razak decentralized the non-agricultural sector to rural areas in order to increase the number of industrial areas. The handicraft industry, closely associated with the rural society, was further developed. By using cheap and discarded items as raw materials, this industry managed to increase the people's income. The outcome of his efforts raised the people's living standards and the economic well-being of the nation. However, he did not live to witness them. He passed away on 14th January 1976. Nevertheless, it is most deserving that he be accorded the title of Father of Development, because his ideas and tireless work managed to overcome the problems faced by the people and enable them to reap the fruits of the nation's socio-economic development.